Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the December 19th Board Conference and Business Meeting of the School District of Haverford Township. Could we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Regal, could you call the roll, please?
Dr. Crispin?
Here.
Mr. Fleischer?
Here.
Ms. Minji?
Here.
Mr. Cinto?
Here.
Mr. Schwartz? Here. Ms. Snodgrass?
Here.
Ms. Wiedemann?
Here.
Mr. Feinberg?
Here. Thank you, Bob. Ms. Larson was unable to attend this evening due to a family matter. I'll accept a motion to approve the official minutes from the December 5th, 2019 regular public board meeting.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is public comment. We have two people signed up this evening. When I call your name, if you could please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes, but we might make some allowances. First person who signed up is Senator Dalen Leach. And Senator, while you're coming to the microphone, I would just like to acknowledge your longtime public service and thank you for that. And also certainly want to emphasize the good work that you have done on behalf of public education, serving on the Senate Education Committee for many years.
Well, thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to have a few seconds just to give you a little bit of an update. I have 6 school districts and 11 municipalities in 2 counties, and I try to come to the governing body of each at least once a year to give an update and get any feedback or questions or things to focus on going forward. So I'm always a little behind on that, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of what we've been doing so far this year in Harrisburg. It's difficult because, as you know, we have divided government, which makes passing legislation problematic often, but there's a few things that we have done, and I just on the education front, I just want to go through a couple of them with you. And you may know some of these, and I apologize if I'm telling you things you already know. But we had an education evaluation bill. That did a number of things. The big thing it did is it changed the percentage of evaluations. There was a lot of controversy about using student performance as a 50% marker for evaluations, because the thinking is there are a lot of things that go into student performance other than teacher performance and teacher competence. There's things that are going on in home, things that are going on in the neighborhood, things that are going on with nutrition, all kinds of things that are out of control of the people in the classroom. So we changed that from a 50-50 approach to a 70-30 approach, and we also included poverty as a factor in the evaluation system, so it would more accurately reflect the challenges that occur in a school that has that's in a distressed neighborhood or for some other reason has challenges. So again, it went from 50% classroom observation practice models and 50% student performance to 70-30, and that was, again, still controversial. For example, PSEA was for it, but PFT was against it. It's, but although that was largely because of procedural issues. There was a charter school reform bill, which did not pass because there was a lot of things that were put into it and taken out of it at the last minute, and it sort of fell apart. But there was some executive action on the charter schools to allow more transparency and to ensure that the money going to charter schools is being used appropriately. I mean, it's fairly detailed. I can go into that if you want, but just generally speaking, that was the purpose of it. There was a push to raise, which I supported, and I supported the teacher evaluation bill. I did not support the final version of the charter reform bill because I thought there was more bad than good, but I did support that there was a minimum salary for teachers. That has not gone up in over 30 years. It's $18,500 statewide. I'm sorry, I'll talk faster. But it's the proposal was to raise it to $45,000, which is competitive with other similar states around the country. That, however, did not get across the finish line, but there's hope that it will in the spring. EITC expansion, I oppose that. That went from $110 million to $210 million, and that's a lot of money at a time when almost everything else is either flat funded or being cut. So I just thought that was irresponsible. Despite my eloquent arguments against it, it passed. However, it was vetoed, and there were not sufficient votes to override the veto, so that expansion did not happen. There was, I have a bill, an adult use cannabis bill. The reason it's relevant to you is because the money, other than paying for the administration of the program, would all go to the new funding formula for the school districts. So, hopefully, I think that will pass eventually. My job is to make that faster, and when that happens, hopefully the part of it that puts a lot of money, and it's a lot of money, into the new funding formula will survive. Of course, there's a lot of competition for that, and there'll be negotiations, but I'm hopeful that that will have the support to maintain in it. Guns in schools. There was, when we first considered this, I actually read a letter against the bill allowing teachers to be armed that was sent to me by the surviving teachers at Sandy Hook. And my mother was a public school teacher, and you don't know her, you just have to trust me. The idea of her shooting it out with someone with a AK-47 is preposterous. There's a lot of reasons that's, I think, a bad bill. So that bill ultimately did not get across the finish line, but there was a compromise bill which does not arm teachers, but it does arm security guards and other school personnel, school police officers, school resource officers, security guards, but not teachers. And then there is Betsy DeVos came to our state to tour the Harrisburg Catholic Elementary School because we did not pass the additional money for the EITC. This was to sort of chastise us for that. And she went to a school that's notorious for not being inclusive of transgender people, of being hostile to them. That was, I think, a message too. Betsy DeVos sent a bunch of mail attacking me years ago, so maybe I'm not as objective as I could be. But anyway, there's a $5 billion federal program that's similar to the state EITC that they're trying to push. I don't think that's going to pass Congress, but anyway, that is where we are with all of that. There is another voucher bill that's circulating. We worked very hard to defeat the last one because the money comes directly from public schools, and it is a recipe for a downward spiral, especially in distressed schools. And I don't think that will become law this year or next year, but it's something to remain vigilant about. And there's a lot of other legislation that I think hurts public education, things about assessment appeals that allow property owners but not school districts to appeal. That's a Dave Argel bill, which I have opposed. I wish there were more things I could support. But anyway, that's largely where we are. And I'd be happy to, anyone has any more detailed questions, I'd be happy to answer them offline or online or however that works. In the meantime, if there are any questions, comments, feelings, experiences you want to share, I'd be happy to take that. Otherwise, we'll let you get about your business.
Any comments from the board?
I'm glad I was so comprehensive. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate you coming. Our next speaker is Rich McGlory.
Yes, thank you. I'm Rich McGlory. I still live at 1246 Dill Road, 2 blocks away from one of the best schools in Pennsylvania, Manoa Elementary School, and I can vouch for that. But anyway, I was at the IAP meeting yesterday, or 2 days ago, and wonderful, great job. They're doing a great job with little Johnny here. But one of your people asked me if I was coming to the meeting tonight. And I wasn't planning on coming to the meeting, and I said, well, I guess maybe I will. And then I went thinking, and I get the old gleam in my eye, well, maybe I should speak about something, because what I did when I was an AP and a principal, I gave every teacher and every person who worked in the school a little candle to symbolize what they do for children. And I was thinking what kind of gift I could give everybody. I expected a full room, or I would have bought you all candles. But I thought about the gift of joy. And most of you were not on the board when I gave the board my favorite article on education called The Happy Illiterate Kindergartners of Finland, who puts the least pressure on kindergartners and first graders to learn to read. Yet, when they're in high school, they have some of the highest test scores perennially every year. And what they do is they put joy in the curriculum. So what I want to bring to you is the gift of joy. It doesn't cost any money. It's one of the most important and essential elements of effective schools. Joy in schools. Now, what I do for joy. I pick my grandson up, not because I have to, because the joy it brings me to see him come out of school, to talk to other parents. And when I get there early for dismissal at Manoa, because I look through the grates at the kids playing in the schoolyard, along with the other parents, and we watch them, and they play so joyfully. When they're out there waiting, they're playing, they're running, they're playing. They come up and talk to me. One day, the kid they were dancing like this, and the kid looked at me, and I went like this. And you know what? I got called a name I've never been called before. I am now the dancing man that the kids always say, hi, dancing man, because of the joy. The greatest gift that you can give to your teachers and to your children and your parents is the gift of joy in our schools. And the two schools that my grandson has gone to, Coopertown and Manoa, they have that joy in those schools. And I'm sure the other three schools are probably the same way. And my little Johnny, the biggest thing, they're all happy about it, is when my son, in Philadelphia, I'd get kicked off the stage. But when he's told the IEP team that when he gets dressed in the morning, he goes right to that door, and his little nose is at that door, that he can't wait to go to school. So have a great holiday. Remember the gift of joy. It starts from the top, and it also starts from the bottom. It's where it meets and becomes a permanent part of the ethos of our schools. Thank you for what you do. Have a nice holiday, and I'm going home to my family. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Happy holiday, Richard.
Good evening, sir. Thank you. Our next item is our student reports, and this evening we have Anna Maloney from the middle school and Elizabeth Jocelyn from the high school.
Hi, I'm Anna Maloney. Thank you for allowing me to present today. The winter sports teams began competing in games and matches this week. Our basketball teams and wrestling team are looking forward to successful seasons. Friday is our annual Ugly Sweater Day. Everyone is encouraged to have some fun and wear their favorite ugly sweater. We are looking forward to our winter break, which begins on Friday at dismissal. We will return to school on Tuesday, January 2nd. I hope that you enjoy your time with your friends and family. I wish you a Happy New Year. The 6th grade choral winter concert will be held on Tuesday, January 7th. The concert will take place in the auditorium at Haverford High School. Thank you for allowing me to present.
Thank you, Anna.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Jocelyn, and I'm a senior at Haverford High School. Thank you for having me back to deliver another report on the exciting events happening at the high school. Last Tuesday was the Spanish Honor Society induction. The Honor Society welcomed 55 new members who have all excelled in the Spanish language and culture. At the induction, students passed a flame by candles to signify growth of every individual. This past Friday, Drama Club hosted their annual winter showcase. They held it at the local Kelly Music Center, which allowed the club to reach members in the greater community. Also this weekend were auditions for Drama Club's spring show 9 to 5. Rehearsals for the musical will begin in the new year in preparation for the show in March. The National Honor Society just completed their annual holiday gift drive. This year, the Honor Society was able to take on 35 families in the surrounding community. In total, 83 kids ranging in ages from 1 to 18 will be receiving gifts at the hands of NHS. In addition to holiday gifts, each child received a school supply kit, a winter coat, and hygiene kits funded and assembled by Student Senate. All of this was possible because of the time and effort NHS put into the pie sale as well as the gift drive. Students shopped, wrapped, and helped package gifts for delivery. Volunteers wrapped from 2:30 until 10:30 on Tuesday night to ensure that everything was prepared. The winter sports season is finally underway, and every team is having great success. The cheerleading team won the District 1 Medium Division Championship and is now looking to regain their state title in Hershey. Both boys and girls basketball teams are off to a strong start this season, both posting a 4-1 record to date. Wrestling is headed to the Howdy Duncan Classic in Delaware this weekend. The team is coming off a big win against Ridley on Wednesday night as the Fords took down Ridley 38-24. Ford Swim and Dive just returned home from a meet at Pencrest where both boys and girls team took home a win. The boys team has a 4-0 record while the girls team is 2-1-1, having already broken multiple team records. The boys track team travels to Staten Island this Sunday to compete in the Bishop Laughlin Games, and the girls track team is headed to Lehigh tomorrow night for the Greater Philadelphia Track Coaches' second meet of the season. Lastly for sports is the ice hockey team, who currently are leading in the Central League with a 9-0 record. The team faces off away against Strathaven tomorrow night. Tomorrow is the last day of classes before winter break, so as you can imagine, students are a little antsy. To get in the holiday spirit, the music department hosts the annual winter assemblies featuring the band, chorus, and orchestra. We had extended homerooms yesterday and today, and for the concerts, students got to hear the yearly favorites, Carol of the Bells, and of course, Sleigh Ride. The last event at the high school before our break is the annual dodgeball tournament. The proceeds from the tournament benefit the Bring Hope Home Foundation. There are teams of students as well as teams of some ambitious teachers. However, a student team usually prevails in the end. Thank you again for having me back to give my monthly board report. I hope you all have a happy holiday season. I look forward to coming back in the new year.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you both. Next item on our agenda, our auditor, Carl Hogan, will give us the highlights of the district audit.
Smiling already. I have a little presentation here too, to keep me on track and to get this done as fast as possible for everybody. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Got it. So once again, my name's Carl Hogan, and I'm here to present the audit results for the year ended June 30th, 2019. And prior to tonight, I did meet with the board members to kind of go over the report more in detail. So tonight, I'm just going to go over a handful of slides to kind of go over the highlights of the audit report that is in everybody's board packet tonight. It was passed out last week, so everybody had a chance to look at it. So as we're going through the presentation tonight, any kind of questions that you have, go ahead and interrupt me, and I'll, between me and Bob, we should be able to answer them, right? Yes, so. So since this is the hardest information in the world to present, I'd like to start off with a cartoon, to find one. And I saw Bob and Brian before the meeting, talking, so beforehand, so caught.
That's
them? That is them.
Oh, okay.
Brian's over there on the right.
Fancy suit.
So the most important thing in your audit report is on pages 1 and 2, and pages 1 and 2 are your independent auditor's report. There's a lot of information in the independent auditor's report. It outlines what management's responsibilities are, what our responsibilities are, what kind of responsibility we're taking for the information within the financial statements. But at the end of the day, the biggest or the most important information on the independent auditor's report is the opinion paragraph. And basically what the opinion paragraph is saying that the numbers that were presented to us by management for the year ended June 30th, 2019 were fairly presented. I could confidently say that there was no adjustments to the books and records that were presented to us for auditing. As you will see, when we go through the numbers here, they're going to pretty much accurately reflect what was presented to you throughout the year. Obviously, there's some accruals and stuff that happen after year end, but what management brought to you prior are going to be the numbers that we're going to present here tonight. So your most important fund is your general fund. This is a synopsis of page number 50, which is a more detailed or more robust general fund budget versus actual schedule. So as you can see, your revenues were budgeted at $122 million, almost $123 million. Your actual revenues came in at $123 million. So you're right spot on in terms of your revenues. Your expenditures, $123.5 million, came in at $121 million for a positive variance of almost $2.5 million. And when we dig down into that number, and we went over this in the board meeting, there were some savings that were realized mostly related to the self-insurance medical with the Delaware County Healthcare Consortium. And then there was also some savings in your regular and your special ed programs within contracted services. Your other financing sources uses was a transfer over to the Capital Projects Fund to help fund some capital projects during the year. So when you went through the budget process in the previous year, you planned to use $643,000 of fund balance. You added $2.1 million of fund balance. So that's a delta or a positive variance of $2.8 million. At the beginning of the year, you had $13.2 million. You added 2.1, and there's 15.4 of fund balance at year end. So you have $15 million of fund balance at year end. In accordance with PDE regulations, you're only allowed to have 8% of your next year's expenditure budget to be considered what we consider unassigned. So each year, or the past 2 years especially, the board has had to commit fund balance for one-time non-recurring expenditures. So you already committed during the budgeting process for the next year $764,000 of fund balance. And then you were still short to get within the 8% for the unassigned. So what happened is the board got together last year and this year, and because of the fact that you're going through a capital improvement program, the most reasonable or the most logical area to be able to put that money for a commitment is within to commit it for one-time capital project expenditures. So as of June 30th, 2019, to get you underneath the 8%, the board committed $4.3 million towards capital projects. So as that money is needed for capital projects, it will be transferred over to the capital projects fund to pay for those projects as they go along. Because as we discussed previously as well, once you transfer that money over to the capital reserve fund in accordance with municipal law, you can't bring it back. So it's just safer to keep it here. And if you don't need it, you could uncommit it and commit it to a different purpose. The next slide is to kind of talk about your food service fund. We put a 3-year trend analysis. This was something we talked about in the previous year. So as you can see, 2017, 2018, 2019, and what we did down at the bottom is we took out those non-cash items. There are some expenses and revenues that are recorded that are non-cash related to changes in your actuarial liabilities and depreciation expense. So for 2017, 18, and 19, you've had a loss, a cash loss from operations that's had to be funded from the general fund. So it went from 75 to 95, and it went down to $60,000. So it got a little bit better in 2019. The next fund that we're going to talk about is your capital projects fund. We're going to be spending a lot of time in the capital projects fund over the next couple of years. In the current year, you issued one of a couple bond issues that you're going to be issuing for your capital improvement plan. So you had a $9.3 million general obligation bond that was issued to fund mostly the new construction at the new Linwood Elementary. And as of June 30th, 2019, $3 million of that $9 million have been spent. And at the end of as of June 30th, 2019, you still had $6 million to be spent for not only the new Linwood Elementary, but you're also expending funds for the high school renovation project as well currently. And then you're going to embark on some other projects and some new debt coming up here in the future. Another item that we discussed previously, and I think it's important to throw it out there, is the PSERS and the PSERS rate. As you can see on the right-hand side, there's a history of what the PSERS rate is and what it's going to be. I think we discussed also, if you turn back the clock even a little bit further, back to 2008, 2009, that rate was about 4%. So it's been a huge burden for every school district in the state of Pennsylvania to have to go from 4% to almost spending almost 33 cents on every dollar, every salary dollar that is eligible for PSERS. Within these financial statements, there's a liability or an actuarial accrued liability on your books, which represents your proportionate share of the billions and billions of dollars of accrued actuarial liability in PSERS. And Haverford School District's share of that liability is $193 million. So it kind of draws the correlation between the high rate of the pension expense or the employer contribution rate and an associated liability with it. Kind of brings the two together, draws a correlation between the two.
If I could interrupt you just for a second for the benefit of the new members on the board. The PSERS rate, the Public School Employees Retirement System rates are not something that we have any input or control over. They're set by a board that's responsible for both making the investments and publishing those rates.
It's also important to know that on the revenue side, we do get half of that back in the form of a state subsidy. So, the real effect on the financials is only half of that, but as long as the state has the money to pay their subsidy, for the other half.
Technically, the state's not required to give you the 50%, so the state doesn't have a 50% liability on their books because they don't technically have to build it into their budget every year. So I'm sure there'd be a mass mutiny if that ever happened, but there's no similar or half liability on the state. It's all on each one of the school districts. So,
Thanks.
And the last and important thing, so we talked about what kind of audit report you had. We talked about what your fund balance is in each one of your major funds, and then also we're going to talk about if there was any kind of findings. I think the second, I think that there are no new management letter comments in the current year. There were some management letter comments during our first year that we went over, and I think I've given an update to management. They'll share them with the board. But there was no findings in internal control that would rise to a level that would need to be reported in this audit report. Our previous management letter comments were just recommendations regarding just the operations, et cetera. So I think that was a good exercise that we went through in the previous year. Also, you get over $750,000 in federal funds, so you need to have a single audit performed. For the current year, your major fund was the IDEA program related to your special education programs. You had an unmodified opinion on compliance on that. The internal controls over the compliance with that were also evaluated, and everything was good with that. In addition to those two filing requirements, down below, there's also an annual financial report, which is one of the big reports that the business office does on an annual basis, and that was filed already on a timely basis with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. And once this gets approved, management's going to go ahead and put this on the EMA website related to your bonds. And then also we're going to file it with the single audit federal audit clearinghouse related to that single audit we just discussed. So any questions?
And the single audit is just additional audit procedures on the federal program money. So we have to, that's a little part of the audit procedure, is doing additional testing on the federal money.
So even though your federal source funds are your smallest source of funds, the federal government requires it, even though you receive over $750,000. And I like testing IDEA because there's such oversight by the IU. It makes our job easier in terms of the internal control over it. So,
If members of the public are interested in seeing this report, can they come to the business office, or is it
On the
also on the
website.
website?
On the website, but yet there's also a hard copy that is in this office.
Questions or comments from the board?
I had gone through and so I have like a finance accounting in my professional life, so I'm interested in the audit and went through it and read it, and some of the highlights that came out to me, in addition to just being in a strong financial condition, I think the positive trend in investment earnings is a real strength and something that we've seen here as we've allocated some of the revenues that come in early in the year to investment strategies that yield greater returns. So we have almost $1 million more of investment revenues than we did a couple of years ago.
yeah. Well, hopefully, this year might see a little downturn with the interest rate being decreased, but
Kind of flattened out and dropped a
yeah.
little, but it's still up higher than 2 years ago, significantly higher, so.
Right, yeah, so that, I think that's an example of the district just making smart investment decisions that
Yeah.
didn't cost us anything. It was
Yeah,
money
so
that we
yeah,
had
so
to make
if you, I look previously, I know Bob's using Pliget and their long-term investment models in there that, are getting some pretty good rates on that, which is good.
And I noticed that, I know we talk a lot about our capital campaign and raising money, but there were a couple of kind of good indicators in the report about how we're keeping that in balance within our, I guess, overall budget and financial condition. One is that there is kind of a debt limit or a debt ceiling calculation based on average of revenues, and we've actually kind of trended down in our utilization of the our limit. So we'd had debt at, it's at 43%, and we're at 42% of our capacity, so kind of continuing to live within our means, even though we're undertaking this project, and that the projection of the tax impact of the future capital raises has decreased in terms of the mills.
Correct. We did a projection, a 3-year projection, when we did the, we're anticipating this construction projects that we had, and we had a kind of a high-end conservative increase in taxes, but because interest rates on these bond issues have come in much better, and we also have some other areas of like that. We're anticipating that, hopefully anticipating that we don't need exceptions in this budget, but we would like to, when we do the budget and the preliminary budget, still go for the exceptions so that our ceiling in our tax increase is higher than 2.6%. Because when it's at 2.6 and you realize maybe we need a little more money, we can't do it. So yeah, our exception, I think, is estimated to be 3.2%. So if we go that, then that gives us a little higher, a little more wiggle room when we build the budget. And we don't anticipate using it, but it's just nice to have that flexibility.
Any other questions? Any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, time flies on. We're done with 2019, halfway through 2020, and on to 2021 next month, right? Budget, so,
Slow down, Carl.
yes, just saying.
Thank you
All right,
very much.
well, all right, thanks.
Have a great holiday.
Yep,
Thanks for all your work, Carl.
thanks.
Next item, it's superintendent's remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Feinberg. Earlier this evening, Elizabeth, as part of her report about the high school, mentioned about the gift drive. I had an opportunity to visit as the students were wrapping, and I've asked to receive some pictures of that. It is an extremely impressive undertaking to see. When Elizabeth said, 35 families and 83 children, the children received multiple gifts. So it was more than just one or two gifts for each child. To see the level of detail that goes into planning that, to maintain the privacy of the families, which is so important to them, and then to hear that they are all Haverford Township families. Just kind of makes you stop and stand still for a minute to think that there are that many children, in homes that need our support, and how lucky we are to have so many students who worked tirelessly through the pie sale and all the other fundraisers to be able to provide, for a nice holiday season for those students. In addition to the groups that Elizabeth mentioned, the coordinator of all of this also asked me to mention specifically the American Legion Manoa Post, number 667. They donated gift cards to Giant, to Wawa, Starbucks, Target. They donated games and toys, and were able to get a lot of local business support. So that group in particular, we will be sending a thank you note from my office as well. Just wanted to add that, and happy holidays to everyone. I also had an opportunity to visit transportation for their holiday celebration, and tomorrow I will be with the maintenance and ground folks, and just the sense of camaraderie and the culture and climate in those environments, to see people who are so proud to work in this community, it's wonderful. So that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Rishi. Next item, information purposes only, Secretary to submit for insertion into the minutes the financial report as of November 30th, 2019. Next item, I'll accept a motion to approve disbursements from the following funds as listed. The general fund, $7,817,000. $817,137.71. Food services, $138,352. Capital projects, Linwood, $741,230.42. And capital projects, high school renovations, $1,120.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to approve the local district audit report from BBD LLP for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to approve the renewal of the facilities use/rental agreement with the Haverford School for the use of the McQuillan swimming pool for the 2019-2020 school year for an amount not to exceed $22,000.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to approve the renewal of the facilities use agreement with St. Joseph's University for the 2020 Haverford High School graduation ceremony on Thursday, June 11th, 2020, at an amount not to exceed $20,081.94.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Can't believe we're already talking about graduation.
Yes, we
Yeah.
Be here before you know it.
Does that amount move at all from year to year?
Yes, that is an increase, which is, I believe, why, all the more reason why it is at not to exceed. Mr. Dunnigy is still in conversation with them.
Moved in-
Chief negotiator.
Moved in second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'll accept a motion to accept the retirements and resignations as listed.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
I would just like to congratulate Billy Friend. I see he's on there 46 years. He's a master plumber, and he always had a smile on his face. It was always fun to see Billy walk in the buildings. So I want to congratulate him. Job well done, Bill.
Because he was fixing a plumbing issue.
Well, it's important, let me be honest. In a school with 600 kids, it's important.
Happy plumbers.
Everything he did was important.
Happy plumbers are important.
So we moved and seconded on that. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to accept the appointments as listed.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to approve the leaves of absence as listed.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept the motion to accept the recommendation of special counsel and authorize settlement of pending special education administrative proceeding 12-54612 for privately obtained legitimate education expenses for the period of 7/1/19 through 3/16/2029 in an amount not to exceed $21,500.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll accept a motion to approve the 2020-2021 high school course selection guide.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and thanks to everybody who was involved in putting that together for us this year. I'll accept the motion to approve the student excursions as listed.
Moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Board reports. Dave, anything this evening?
Well, one thing I just wanted to mention, I was caught a bit off guard last meeting. I didn't realize I'd be first, so, live and learn. But I did just want to echo what my other fellow elected board members said in thanking the public and the community, and also wanted to thank the administration and the other board members right now. It's been a very welcoming situation, and it makes the transition a heck of a lot easier. So I want to thank all of you for that. And because, well, it's not that late yet, but because we're almost to the holidays, I'll say to all, happy holidays, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thanks, Dave. Bridget?
I was going to show my certificate here. Several of us went last week for our official board training by PSBA. Larry and I were in a session that went over trauma-informed education, policy updates and information, and kind of financial analysis. So that was helpful, and we met over at the high school with maybe like 20 school directors from around the region in our group, and that was a good exercise and a nice way to get oriented to this new term. I wanted to give a shout out to the grounds crew that I saw on Wednesday morning outside of Chestnut Wald, pruning and cleaning the beds. It was 30 degrees that morning, maybe not like 18 like today, but I was still really impressed that they were out there. And I also had an opportunity this week to go into the middle school. The 8th grade seminar classes did a humanitarian research project, and that teacher, Dr. Finn, had been here recently celebrating his 25 years of service with the district. Really is an impressive display. There were 4 different time slots and multiple presentations going on, but I got to see students present on the topic of climate change, sustainable cities, perceptions of crime, and gun violence in schools. And I think it's a really nice example of how the district, there's opportunities for kids to use their skills to increase awareness and promote action, and to be engaged and informed citizens. So that was a nice experience to get to see that.
Great, thanks. Antoinette?
I just wanted to say, with the holidays, I know all of the schools not only work really hard to teach our students, but to make the holidays special, especially with, all of the charitable giving. So I'm going to say thank you to our students and our staff who make that possible, but also that, they really do work sort of overtime to have these special events. I'm missing one at Chestnut World tonight, but that's okay. But I just want to say thank you to our staff and our teachers for making this a special time for everybody. I know that the students get really excited and really enjoy that aspect of school. So thank you. And I just wish everybody a happy holiday.
This is a special event too,
I know. No, that's right. I'm happily here. I've been to the sing along before. It's a great event.
Thanks, Antoinette. Sal?
No report. No report.
I, with Antoinette, went to the 6-hour PSBA training.
longer one, yeah.
My certificate is in the mail. Last Thursday from 4 until 10 p.m. It was very long, but it was very informative. So thank you to everybody who put that together. And the trauma-informed education was really interesting. It's not something I know a lot about, but that was. Hopefully I'll learn more about that as I go. But that was very, very interesting to me. But yeah, I really appreciated that. It was a good primer on a lot of different things. Yeah.
Oh, good. Thanks for you guys for sitting there for 6
It
hours.
was long. It was long for sure. But it was important.
Good company.
So, yeah.
It's long.
It was.
Susan?
Just to talk about the IU one more time and the career and technical education. We learned that the medical careers program, which there is, and let me make sure I read it correctly, 250 applications yearly. If the principal of the high school were here, he could tell us how many of our kids go, but I know I've never spoken to a student, and I've spoken to a lot of them about this medical careers program without them loving it. They get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I think they meet at 6 o'clock in the morning maybe to get on the bus to go to one of the hospitals in the area. They spend their whole entire first block there learning about everything that the hospitals do. It says here, as we describe at the IU, this program is a pathway to high priority occupations with a significant need in our region. We currently, and this is the county, currently has 6 program sites at hospitals throughout the county and are able to serve 144 students. I think I might have said, so I heard it. The best part about this is they're adding another hospital because it is so popular, because so many of our Delaware County students, including our Haverford students, want to participate in this and get a little handle on what's going on in the medical world. And they will be, Dan Palmer has been meeting with Riddle administration, and they've gotten approval for a program there. So that's just one of the many, many programs that the IU offers, this one to our high school kids. And I just want to encourage everyone to get to know a little bit about what's going on out there in careers and technical education. I wish everybody a happy holiday.
And Susan, our students have been among the largest number of
Right.
participants. Out of that 144, roughly about 40 of them are
That's what
from
I thought.
Haverford.
That's what I thought. It's a great program.
Yeah, health services is the #1 forecasted growing field.
Is it?
Mhm.
Well, there you go.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Yeah,
There you go.
fun fact.
Thanks.
So that's great. That's good.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.
On the legislative side, I just want to follow up on Senator Leach's remarks. I believe the House of Representatives, day before yesterday, passed a budget that completely ignored Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos's request for more money for privatization. So that was good to hear. There were also significant increases in both Title I funding and special education funding, and the budget line for charter school funding was flat funded. So at the federal level, things are looking relatively good. In Harrisburg, the House and Senate are adjourned until after the new year. Speaker Turzai, who is sort of a disciple of Betsy DeVos, took another run at his voucher bill this week with an amendment that would have replaced most of the voucher language with a dramatic expansion of the tax credit programs. And fortunately, he wasn't able to garner enough support from Republican House members to bring the bill to a vote. So it'll be back after the new year. You can bank on it. It's not clear whether he's just trying to build support for this coming year's budget, where I'm sure he's going to ask for a significant increase in the tax credit programs again. But we'll see where it goes. So. The board met in executive session prior to the public meeting to have an opportunity to review personnel issues, including appointments, resignations, and leaves of absence. I'd like to thank everybody for a great year and wish everybody in the district and the community happiest holidays and a happy new year. So with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
We're out of here.
Colleen would be pleased.
Yes.